Not in my wildest dreams, Matty, but just like you guys, I dreamt as a kid of faraway treasures, islands and pirates.
So they take this out, they keep digging, they get down 10 more feet. Now they're on 20 feet, and they're boys. They hit another layer of oak logs, and they give up.
For years, viewers have watched the search for treasure on Oak Island, convinced that the real answers were buried beneath layers of soil and centuries of history. But what if the true mystery was never underground at all? Forget everything you think you know about Oak Island, because the real secret was never hidden below the surface. It's been right in front of us the entire time. For more than a decade, one man transformed corroded scraps of metal into moments that felt historic. That man is Gary Drayton. But here's what almost no one talks about. Gary never promised treasure. Not once. While the show fueled expectations of gold and final answers, Gary consistently repeated the same quiet message. He was operating on a completely different wavelength, one most viewers never noticed. Tonight, we're breaking down the moment his own words unintentionally revealed the real truth about Oak Island. Why the mystery never truly resolves. Why discoveries always feel incomplete. And why certainty is forever just out of reach. The greatest illusion isn't buried treasure. It's the story we've been trained to believe. Pay close attention. Once you see it, there's no going back. Subscribe, because most people miss what comes next. This is Gary Drayton's Grand Misdirection. For years, Gary Drayton has been the face of physical discovery on the Curse of Oak Island, the ever-smiling metal detectorist with an uncanny knack for pulling history straight from the dirt. His famous catchphrase, "A real Bobby Dazzler," became a symbol of hope, progress, and momentum. But beneath the excitement and charm, a different story has been quietly unfolding. One that, according to behind-the-scenes whispers, Gary has grown exhausted from keeping to himself. The supposed core lie? The idea that the Lagina brothers and their team are perpetually on the brink of a world-altering discovery. What viewers rarely hear is this: for every coin, button, or relic that makes it to air, there are hundreds of hours spent digging up nothing but modern trash. Bottle caps, scrap iron, debris, and that's where things start to feel off. Gary is a world-class metal detectorist. He knows better than anyone how to distinguish a random loss from a deliberately placed object. And yet, rumors suggest that some of his most iconic finds felt oddly convenient. A Spanish coin appears right on cue. A Templar-style artifact emerges just in time to support the episode's theory. Always enough to keep the storyline alive. To put it plainly, the island seems to deliver exactly what the script requires, precisely when it's needed. And that leads to the most explosive accusation of all, that some of these artifacts may not belong to Oak Island in the first place. Were they planted? It's a serious claim, but one that would explain the almost supernatural luck surrounding the team. Take the famous lead cross, one of the show's most important discoveries. It was found at Smith's Cove, an area that had already been excavated, searched, and disturbed repeatedly over decades. Yet somehow, it was resting just inches below the surface, waiting for Gary to uncover it. In real treasure hunting terms, that kind of find borders on impossible. A 1 in a billion scenario. Over more than 10 seasons, Oak Island has woven a sweeping narrative involving Templar knights, pirate hordes, and royal conspiracies. According to these alleged revelations, much of that story is carefully stitched together from loosely connected historical facts. The real brilliance of Oak Island isn't mechanical or archaeological. It's promotional. Consider the curse. The claim that 7 must die before the treasure is found. Bobby Dazzler, top pocket find. All rolled into one on Lot 26. Yes, 6 people have tragically lost their lives over 2 centuries of searching. But framing those deaths as a mystical prophecy transforms accidents into destiny. It adds suspense, danger, and emotional weight, exactly what keeps viewers coming back. From this perspective, Oak Island isn't extraordinary at all. It's a small, heavily overexplored island that turned repeated failure into legend. And the real truth emerges when you stop chasing buried gold and start following the money. Not treasure money, but television money. The show is a global phenomenon, generating millions through broadcasting rights, merchandise, and tourism. Nearby communities like Mahone Bay have seen waves of visitors hoping to glimpse the money pit or the war room. Oak Island itself is no longer just a location, it's a brand. That success creates immense pressure to deliver discoveries, or at least the appearance of them. And that's where the illusion becomes necessary. Without a constant flow of Bobby Dazzlers, the momentum collapses, the machine stops, and Gary, as the primary source of those finds, sits right at the center of that pressure. According to whispers, his breaking point came from the intellectual compromise. Gary built his reputation on authenticity. Being part of a production that blurs the line between genuine discovery and entertainment takes a toll. Every perfectly timed artifact became another weight on his conscience. He witnessed how the story was shaped in the edit, how vague fragments were elevated into Templar relics, how dead ends were reframed as clues leading somewhere else. The island wasn't revealing secrets. A production team was manufacturing them. But the most important illusion of all is the money pit itself, the legend that started everything. In 1795, 3 teenagers supposedly discovered a circular depression and began digging, uncovering wooden platforms every 10 feet. That story has fueled the Oak Island mystery for over 200 years. Yet according to this account, the money pit may be the biggest fabrication of all. There is no primary documentation from 1795 confirming it ever existed. The story only appeared in print decades later, likely exaggerated to attract investors to early treasure hunting ventures. The original money pit is effectively lost to history. What the Lagina brothers are drilling into today, massive shafts like the Garden Shaft, are modern attempts to locate something that was never properly recorded in the first place. And here's the part most people ignore. Over the past 2 centuries, more than 150 shafts have been dug in the area by countless companies. That creates a subterranean maze of collapsed tunnels, voids, and debris. An underground Swiss cheese. So when the drill hits wood, what is it really finding? A 200-year-old depositor platform? Or the remains of a failed dig from 1861? There's no way to tell. And that's the genius of the deception. The failures of past treasure hunters didn't erase the mystery. They built it. The so-called booby traps and flood tunnels are another perfect example of how legend overtakes logic. The story claims an ingenious system of channels was carved from Smith's Cove to deliberately drown anyone who dared approach the treasure. Sounds brilliant, until geology enters the conversation. Oak Island sits on highly porous limestone. In other words, the entire island functions like a sponge floating in the Atlantic. Dig deep enough below sea level, and water rushes in. Not because of pirate engineering, but because that's how islands work. Those coconut fibers found at Smith's Cove, often cited as proof of artificial beaches and flood tunnels, don't automatically point to ancient masterminds either. Early searchers commonly used coconut fiber as rope, insulation, and packing material. It could have been left behind by treasure hunters themselves, not mysterious depositors. From an insider's perspective, Gary Drayton would have known this. He would have watched excitement build when a void was detected, only to discover it was a previously collapsed searcher shaft. He would have heard experts passionately link old timbers to original treasure builders, while knowing full well they could belong to the Enslow Company from 1803 or the Truro Company from 1845. On screen, these moments are framed as tantalizing clues. In reality, they're just recycled remnants of past failures. The true curse of Oak Island isn't mystical or supernatural. It's repetition. The same mistakes, the same debris, rediscovered over and over again. To put it bluntly, the team isn't just hunting treasure. They're excavating the leftovers of 2 centuries of unsuccessful treasure hunts. Every nail, plank, and scrap of leather could simply be trash left behind by earlier hopefuls, now rebranded as evidence of an ancient, globe-spanning conspiracy. And the money pit is only one piece of this carefully constructed illusion. Take the triangular swamp. The show has devoted enormous time, money, and speculation to it, presenting it as a man-made anomaly designed to hide something priceless, perhaps even a sunken ship. They point to unusual stone formations, a paved area, and traces of what they claim could be gold in the water. But what if the swamp is just a swamp? According to Gary Drayton's alleged insights, this is another case of forcing reality to fit the script. Flat stone formations are common in the region's natural geology. The so-called ship-shaped anomaly detected by seismic scans could just as easily be dense clay deposits or a pile of fallen trees. Nothing extraordinary required. Gary's role here is critical. His metal detector has swept the swamp countless times, turning up spikes, ox shoes, and rusted tools, items the show links to original treasure builders. What they rarely mention is that this land was heavily used for industry. Logging, farming, livestock. Oak Island was once even known as Cabbage Island. Oxen hauled timber. Boats docked nearby. Of course, there's metal in the soil. These aren't signs of Templar gold. They're leftovers from a very ordinary working island. But ordinary doesn't sell. Pirate treasure does. So the agricultural past gets ignored. Then there's Nolan's Cross. 5 large boulders allegedly forming a massive Christian cross pointing directly to the treasure. It's visually compelling, almost mystical. But there's no historical evidence tying it to Templar Knights or any ancient order. It's a modern interpretation imposed onto a random grouping of rocks. Oak Island is filled with mysteries like this, ones that collapse when examined closely. It's a giant game of connect the dots, except the dots are selectively chosen to create the image the producers want. Gary Drayton would have seen this manipulation firsthand. Imagine being instructed to scan a specific location, not because evidence led there, but because the episode needed a find to support the Nolan's Cross theory. That's the subtle control at play. Viewers think discoveries are guiding the investigation, when in reality, the narrative dictates where the team searches. This is why the show always feels like it's on the brink of a breakthrough, but never quite arrives. The mystery is designed to move perpetually, generating endless questions while avoiding definitive answers. So, if it's all an illusion, what's the real truth? The most shocking revelation of all: the show isn't chasing the curse, it's cashing in on it. If there's no pirate horde, no Templar gold, no Ark of the Covenant, then what is Oak Island's true treasure? According to Gary Drayton's alleged confession, the treasure is the hunt itself. Oak Island has transformed from a location into a multi-million-dollar entertainment empire. The Lagina brothers may have begun as passionate seekers, but they're now executive producers of one of cable television's biggest successes. Every collapse, every dead end, every drill that hits rock bottom actually helps the brand. The real treasure is uncovered weekly, not from the ground, but from the wallets of millions of devoted viewers worldwide. Think about it from a business perspective. Why would you ever want to solve the mystery? The moment a definitive answer is found, treasure or no treasure, the show ends. The brand fades. Tourism dries up. The mystery is the product. So the real objective isn't discovery, it's delay. A constant supply of clues, artifacts, and cliffhangers keeps the machine alive. That's the final and most profound illusion of Oak Island. This isn't exploration, it's performance. Is there a missing piece we've overlooked? Or has it all been unfolding right in front of us? These things aren't built overnight. The story is layered season by season, blending history, speculation, and just enough physical evidence to feel real. Gary Drayton's finds were the glue holding it all together. Without his Bobby Dazzlers, the show would simply be two brothers digging very expensive holes in mud. He was the bridge between wild theories and physical reality. And if he truly chose to speak out, it wouldn't be betrayal. It would be refusal to continue supporting a story that conflicted with his integrity. So, what's left? A tale of obsession, hope, and the irresistible pull of mystery. Even if parts of it are manufactured, has it been harmless? Many people have been inspired by the Lagina brothers' persistence, their curiosity, and their belief in possibility. But it's also a cautionary tale about how easily we accept stories we want to believe, especially when they're wrapped in adventure and suspense. And that's where the illusion reaches its final form. Because once you recognize that Oak Island is structured as a story first and an investigation second, everything suddenly clicks into place. The pacing, the endless recaps, the dramatic pauses before revealing something that ultimately leads nowhere. It's not incompetence, it's design. The show isn't failing to reach a conclusion. It's actively avoiding one. Every season follows the same rhythm. A mysterious find, expert speculation, historical flashbacks, a theory connecting it all to something legendary. Then, just before confirmation arrives, the trail goes cold, or redirects. Another hole, another anomaly, another reason to keep watching. This loop isn't accidental, it's the engine. From Gary Drayton's alleged point of view, this would be impossible not to notice. He wasn't just swinging a metal detector randomly across the island. He was part of a tightly orchestrated production schedule. Certain areas suddenly became important. Certain theories needed reinforcement. Certain episodes required a physical object, something tangible, to keep the audience grounded in belief. And when those moments arrived, Gary's finds appeared right on cue. That doesn't necessarily mean outright fabrication. It's far more subtle than that. It's selective focus, emphasis, interpretation. A bent nail becomes a fastener from a treasure chest. A fragment of lead becomes evidence of medieval engineering. Language does the rest. Words like possibly, could be, and suggests do heavy lifting. Just enough ambiguity to avoid false claims, but enough excitement to keep hope alive. And hope is the most valuable resource on Oak Island. Hope keeps drills turning. Hope keeps funding flowing. Hope keeps viewers emotionally invested. Without hope, the show collapses under the weight of its own unanswered questions. So hope must be manufactured, protected, and refreshed, season after season. This is why even failure is reframed as progress. A collapse isn't a setback, it's proof of complexity. A flooded shaft isn't a problem, It's confirmation of intelligence behind the design. Every obstacle becomes evidence that something important must be down there. The harder it is to reach, the more valuable it must be. That logic is never questioned, because questioning it would unravel the entire premise. Gary Drayton's importance in this system cannot be overstated. He wasn't just a detectorist, he was credibility. His enthusiasm felt genuine because it was genuine, at least at the beginning. He loves history, he loves discovery, and that authenticity transferred to the audience. If Gary believed, then viewers believed. But belief becomes complicated when you start seeing the same patterns repeat. When every breakthrough mirrors the last. When every promising lead quietly fades without explanation. When objects that should rewrite history somehow never leave the island or the show. At some point, the excitement stops being discovery and starts feeling like maintenance. Keeping the story alive. Keeping the momentum going. Keeping the mystery intact. And that's when integrity becomes a burden. If Gary truly reached that point, then his frustration wouldn't come from deception alone. It would come from stagnation. From realizing that no matter how many artifacts surfaced, no answer would ever be allowed to stand as final. Because finality is the enemy of episodic television. This reframes the entire Oak Island phenomenon. The island itself becomes secondary. The real dig isn't happening underground, it's happening in the minds of the audience. The show excavates curiosity, nostalgia, and the universal desire to believe that something extraordinary still exists in the modern world. That's why Oak Island works. Not because of what's buried there, but because of what it represents. The dream that history still has secrets, that perseverance will be rewarded, that ordinary people can stumble onto world-changing discoveries. And maybe that's why the illusion is so powerful. Because part of us wants it to be true. We want the flood tunnels to be real. We want the Templars to have left their mark. We want the mystery to end with revelation, not resignation. So the show gives us just enough truth to sustain the fantasy. In that sense, Oak Island isn't a lie in the traditional sense. It's a performance built on selective reality, a carefully balanced mix of facts, speculation, and emotional storytelling. And like any long-running performance, it depends on its cast playing their roles convincingly. Gary Drayton's role was the believer, the finder, the man who could turn soil into significance. If he truly stepped away from that belief, even internally, that moment would represent the quiet collapse of the show's foundation. Not with an explosion, not with a confession, but with exhaustion. So where does that leave us? With a story that's bigger than treasure, bigger than gold, bigger than Oak Island itself. It becomes a reflection of how myths are born, not in ancient times, but in modern media. How repetition creates truth, how confidence creates credibility, how stories become stronger the longer they go unresolved. Gary Drayton's final message isn't bitter, it's grounded. The greatest treasure isn't buried beneath stone and water. It's found in honesty, authenticity, and knowing when to stop digging. So now that you know the possible truth, does it ruin the adventure? Or make it even more fascinating?